Hi boys and girls. Today we're going to be digging deeper into our text using the text features. If you remember the text features part 1 video, we looked at this page where we had taken away the text. If we zoom in and look at some of these text features, we see that there are some pictures here, almost like diagrams because they're the same thing that's changing. And if we read the captions underneath that tells me what's going on, it says, millions of years ago, swamps covered the land. Thick layers of dead plants were buried over years and years. The layers hardened into sedimentary rock. And the last part says, now we remove the coal that formed. So without knowing what was on the page, I already have some information that might be new to me about how sedimentary rock is formed and how coal is formed by those layers hardening and compressing that down. And I can see, if I look visually, that the coal is all the way at the bottom here. I was also told that it takes years and years for this to happen. So when I'm using my other text features of headings, I know that this has to do with non-renewable energy sources and fossil fuels. So I gain a lot of information using those text features. Sometimes text features help me to create a visual picture in my mind, and sometimes they add more information than what was given in the actual text. So let's take a look at what the text has to say, keeping in mind that I saw this visual picture of this land changing over time and that coal getting compressed by sedimentary rock and forming those bottom layers over many, many years. Let's read the passage here on the left and check to see how the text features help our understanding. So we'll start at the top. Non-renewable energy resources. Non-renewable resources are supplies that exist in limited amounts or are used much faster than they can be replaced in nature. People use ores and other non-renewable resources to make products and to provide energy. An ore is a rock rich in minerals that can be removed from the earth. Non-renewable mineral resources are commonly found in ores. So if I think about the text features, nothing really jumped out at me that helped me better understand, other than thinking about what ore could be. Maybe that was a new vocabulary word. And if I think about the other text features like print that we talked about earlier, I see that the word ore is highlighted and in bold. And it did tell me the definition of ore right after I read it. So when I thought about the coal that was formed here at the bottom of my picture, that kind of goes into that ore category. All right, let's continue reading. Fossil fuels. Coal, natural gas, and oil are some non-renewable energy sources. They are fuels, which means they are burned to produce useful heat. Coal, natural gas, and oil are called fossil fuels because they were made from organisms that lived long ago. Do you realize that all the energy stored in fossil fuels can be traced to the sun? It's true. Oil is the everyday name for petroleum. Fossil fuels, such as petroleum, are the products of organisms that lived in the sea long ago. The bacteria, algae, and other organisms changed the energy in sunlight to produce energy to help them live. Their bodies stored whatever energy they didn't use. After they died, their remains and the unused stored energy settled in the seabed. As more and more organisms settled, thick layers called sediments formed. Over millions of years, pressure from the weight of the upper layers squeezed the lower layers. The pressure, heat, and decaying action of the bacteria gradually changed the energy-rich remains. The chemicals stored in the bodies of these tiny organisms became oil and other fossil fuels. So if I think back to what I read, I did start at the beginning hearing about coal, natural gas, and oil. But most of this section was about petroleum or oil. And it did tell me that oil is formed from organisms in the seabed and that those are pressed down from or by thick layers of sediment. And as they're squeezed and pressure and heat is all applied, then it does change it into oil. So from the passage, I learned that oil is made from organisms that live in the sea, and that pressure and sediment helps form those. When I think back to the text features, though, and these pictures, these were not about creatures that lived in the sea. So I gained completely new information from the text features. From the text, I learned how oil or petroleum is formed. From the text features, I learned how coal is formed. So if I were asked a question about how do the text features help me better understand the text, I don't want to just talk about that I learned how different non-renewable energy sources are formed. That's just summarizing the text. I want to be very specific. So a better way to answer this question is to say, in the text, I learned how oil is formed. So I'm stating what I learned from the text, but then I want to tell specifically about the text features. So I might continue with another sentence saying, the pictures and captions explained how coal is formed. To then wrap my statement up, I'm going to then compare and contrast both of the text and the information given. So my last sentence would be, both are formed by sediment pressing down on fossils, but oil is formed in the seabed while coal is formed on land. This gives the best representation of what I learned. I told what I learned in the text, but then what I learned specifically in the text features, because it was completely different than what I learned in the text. Both are tied together, so it makes sense about why the author chose to use the text features that he or she did. But it did give me brand new information to think about. It gave me something else to learn that I didn't know before. So when you're answering a question, such as how do the text features help you in your understanding, you don't just want to summarize what you read. You want to make sure that you give specific details about what was presented in the text features that was different or that added to the meaning in the text. Now we're going to practice using a different article. In your reader's notebook, I'd like you to create this chart. One side needs to be information in the article, and on the other side, I'd like you to put information in the text features. So as you read through this article, you will be maybe just making some notes or some bulleted points of different information that you're given. And then on the third slide, you will see kind of an up-close version of the bottom of the article that is living in the deep. And on the information in the text feature side, you will put some information that was added that's going to help deepen your understanding of the article. So go ahead and make sure you have that drawn into your reader's notebook, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the article. Okay, so this article is called 63 Feet Under the Sea, and it is about Fabien Cousteau, who is the grandson of Jacques Cousteau, and it's going to be talking about how Jacques Cousteau spent 31 days on the ocean floor. And within the article, it talks about the toll that living under the sea for so long takes on your body. So I want you to go ahead and read this article. It's this slide and the next slide. And notice the power words down here in case you need a little bit of help with those words. And make sure that you're filling out that left side of your chart information from the article while you read that. So after reading the article, some of the information that I put was that it was a 30-day mission to study the sea floor. The aquanauts were able to get 2 years worth of data because they were able to actually stay down there. The article talked about all different types of things that they were studying, but that they had this lab that was very expensive. I felt like even though it didn't say in the article that it was dangerous, I thought that it probably was because on the second page it said that there was the small structure called the gazebo, and that was in case Aquarius had to be evacuated. So to me, if there's a kind of a safety, a backup place in case something would have to be evacuated, that would make me feel like it was kind of a dangerous place to be, or that it was dangerous to be down there for so long. And I also put that there was special equipment that they had now that made them be able to stay underwater for so long. Because even though it was a month underwater is a long time, and they were able to get 2 whole years worth of information in that month's time. So that's what I put down. There are lots of other things that you could have put down that they were doing and what the text gave you. So now I'm going to show you a slide that has a text feature that was at the bottom of the page kind of blown up so that you could see it a little bit better. And I want you to fill out the second side of your chart, information in the text features. So after I looked at the text features, I saw that it was talking about how dangerous it is to be under the sea. It specifically talked about the lungs, ears, and skin, and how all of those things can be greatly affected by being underwater for so long if these aquanauts are not careful. So basically, the text feature told me what they did so they could protect themselves and be able to stay underwater for so long. So here's the big question. How did the information in the text feature help you better understand the article? Remember, when we used the science text, we talked specifically about what the article told us. Then we gave what the text feature told us, and we looked for a way to combine them so that we understood why that text feature made sense to be paired with that article. I'd like you to write about 3 sentences following that format. Your first sentence should be about what the article told you. The second sentence should be about what the text feature gave you. And the third sentence would be combining the two of why that text feature makes sense to pair with that article. How did it better help your understanding? What did it tell you that you didn't know before that helps that article make more sense now? So please write 3 sentences. Go ahead and write it in your reader's notebook, and we'll continue practicing with more articles throughout the week.